Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have another great episode of news to cover. Today is Monday, June 30th. Last Monday of the month, guys. We are almost done with June. My mic was a little louder there. Sorry, I'm just excited. My gosh. Last Monday of the month, and we have a lot to cover. We got 5 stories today. We have a document that was shared by the Mamdani campaign for mayor in New York that talks about discrimination against white residents. We got stories about civil rights issues. We got stories about TikTok. TikTok's back in the news once again, as if it could ever be out of the news. But I hope you're all doing so good before we get into our first story. I hope you're all having a great, fantastic day. And I'm glad that you're spending the next half an hour of it with me. Can't wait. All right. Let's get into our very first story right here. This comes from the New York Times. Trump administration formally accuses Harvard of violating civil rights law over campus anti-Semitism. The Trump administration has formally accused Harvard University of violating civil rights laws by not doing enough to combat campus anti-Semitism and is threatening to pull all federal funding from the prestigious school. The stark warning came by way of a letter from the Federal Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism, claiming Harvard has been in some cases deliberately indifferent and in others has been a willful participant in anti-Semitic harassment of Jewish students, faculty, and staff since Hamas terror attack against Israel on October 7th, 2023. Quote, failure to institute adequate changes immediately will result in loss of all federal financial resources and continue to affect Harvard's relationship with the federal government, officials wrote in a letter to Harvard President Alan Garber on Monday. The notice of violation follows an investigation led by the Department of Health and Human Services, which the administration says has given Harvard nearly $800 million in federal funds since fiscal year 2023. The HHS Office of Civil Rights has also sent Garber a 57-page report documenting its findings, resulting from 50, quote, listening sessions held with over 500 Jewish students. According to the report, quote, almost 60% of the Jewish students surveyed reported experiencing discrimination, stereotyping, or negative bias on campus due to their views on current events. The task force wrote that 26% of Jewish students reported feeling physically unsafe, while 44% felt mentally unsafe. 67% of Jewish students expressed discomfort sharing their opinions in general, a figure that jumps to 73% when it comes to expressing political opinions, the report states. Among those who were direct student-on-student harassment, targeted harassment by student groups, exclusion from campus space, and institutional-level acceptance of anti-Semitism. It goes on to detail disturbing specific examples, including reports of Jewish and Israeli students being spat upon for wearing a yarmulke, being stalked on campus, and being jeered with calls of Heil Hitler while waiting for campus transportation. These incitements, the report claims, went unheeded by the university. The violation notice follows another letter by the Anti-Semitic Task Force, which outlined a list of demands and the school must meet or risk losing some $256 million in federal contracts, as well as $8.7 billion in additional multi-year grant commitments. I'll be honest with you, I think this report is a little bit soft. I'll tell you why. I'm a conservative. I don't feel comfortable sharing my opinions on my campus. Now, similar to what these Jewish students are saying and how they do not feel comfortable sharing their opinions on matters on their campus. What I feel is soft, though, is that while where I go to school, might not feel comfortable sharing my opinions, but I know I'm not going to get spat upon, right? I don't think this report hammered home enough that Jewish students are endangered at Harvard right now. There were protests at Harvard saying death to Jews. I don't think that report hammered home enough that Jewish students are in actual physical danger at Harvard at this very moment. Am I in actual physical danger at my university for being a conservative? No, not any more than any other student at my school is for just being a student in my school, right? We're all in danger to an extent. It is a public university. But do I feel that I'm going to get physically attacked because I go and share a pro-life opinion, or I stand up for free speech in my school? No, I don't. I don't feel that way. But these students feel they're going to be physically attacked. They could get injured. They could get hurt in one way or another by being at Harvard because of policies that Harvard has gone along with, has stood up for. And frankly, I think that this is more than rational for the Trump administration to be doing this. I know I've talked about this a lot on this channel, but good. Put the nail in the coffin for Harvard. Stop giving them money. Stop giving all of these major universities money, in my opinion, frankly. They don't deserve it. They're not doing enough to promote the general welfare of the United States. And frankly, they're nothing more than highly expensive indoctrination camps for rich folks and minorities at this point. That's really what they're becoming. They're not becoming institutions of learning. Harvard is not the institution of knowledge that it once was. It's just not anymore. Same thing with a lot of these Ivy League universities. You can get the same or better education by going to a smaller university. It costs less money and be better off for it. So why are we still giving these colleges all this money? Billions of dollars. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Just saying. All right. Let's talk about New York City for a moment. So Trump warned socialist Zoran Mamdani, behave or NYC won't get any federal money. Now, I'm sure that this is very close to home for the president, considering he is from New York City. He spent his entire career building up a company in New York, and to see someone like socialist, frankly communist, wanting to take over the city and turn it into another hellscape, I'm sure is very emotional for him, as it is for me. New York City is one of the greatest cities in the world, and this is the guy who will likely be running it. President Donald Trump warned Zoran Mamdani, who or whoever ultimately wins the next election for mayor of New York City will have to behave or face a very tough financial response from the federal government. Trump made the comment during a Sunday morning feature interview on a Sunday morning feature interview after anchor Maria Bartiromo asked who is poised to support in the election. Quote, well, I don't want to say that because I have a lot of people, a lot of friends, and I have everybody. So I don't want to get into that, Trump said. I can tell you this, whoever's mayor of New York is going to have to behave themselves, or the federal government is going to come down very tough on them financially. Moments later, Trump took a direct swipe at Mamdani, the socialist candidate who emerged victorious in the Democrat Party's primary for New York City mayor after former Governor Andrew Cuomo conceded the contest last week. He's a communist. I think it's very bad for New York. I don't know that he's going to get in. It's inconceivable that he is, Trump said. But he's a communist, and he's pure communist. I think he admits it, but I can't imagine it. And let's say this, if he does get in, I'm going to be president, and he is going to have to do the right thing, or they're not getting any money. Trump added, quote, he's got to do the right thing. It's shocking that I would have assumed that. I used to say we will never have a socialist in this country. But no, but we'll have a communist. I mean, he's a communist. He's going to be mayor of New York. So I was very surprised when I said, I never heard of him. I don't know who he is. He also said Mamdani is a radical left lunatic, and Bartamo said the socialist has vowed not to cooperate with ICE and pledged to have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrested if he visits New York City. Mamdani pushed back on the communist label that Trump has given him during an interview on NBC Meet the Press on Sunday. Quote, "No, I'm not. And I have already had to start to get used to the fact that the president will talk about how I look, how I sound, where I'm from, who I am, ultimately because he wants to distract from what I'm fighting for. And I'm fighting for the very working people that he ran a campaign to empower, and that he has since then betrayed," Mamdani said. Trump said nothing about where this guy's from or how he looks. He said the guy's a freaking communist, which frankly he is. He wants to open up government-issued grocery stores. He wants to tax rich white residents more money on their property than other residents, specifically white residents or white neighborhoods. We'll talk about that in just a moment. It's insane. I think that's just fine. The federal government has no reason to send our tax money to cities, to causes that it does not support. We, the people, voted to put Donald Trump in power. I stand by his positions on what he thinks is best for the country, to an extent. When it comes to spending issues, not necessarily as much. But when it comes to sending money to causes such as to New York City, to Harvard, 100% support the Trump administration decisions. I do. I voted for Trump, thus I stand by the decisions that he makes as the chief executive of the Fed. This is why I voted for him. Good. I don't want to see it. And my God, New York, I truly hope we have some interesting election where the vote just totally gets split across the board and the Republican running somehow wins. How crazy would that be? Talked about it, I think, in the last episode. Or the episode before that. I don't remember. From Fox News. New York Post editorial slams Zohran Mamdani's plan as taxing whites more, calls it pure racism. The New York Post editorial board published a scathing piece on New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani's plan to, quote, tax whites more on Friday, calling the proposed tax scheme, quote, pure racism. The Post editorial argued that Mamdani's plan to shift the city's tax burden to richer and whiter neighborhoods shows, quote, where his priorities really are, and slammed the Democrat socialists for looking to punish white people. A housing policy document posted to Mamdani's official website states that if he were elected, his administration would, quote, shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer, whiter neighborhoods. The document can be found here. Here's the document they're talking about. I have it linked in the description. So, on page 4, Zohran for New York City, this is his stuff, it says, the Mamdani administration will address this deeply inequitable system, using the full power of the mayor's office to both address the system directly and working with legislatures at the state level to win necessary reforms. In the long term, these changes will include implementing much of New York City's Advisory Commission on Property Tax Reform's 2021 recommendations, which are comprehensive. However, short-term, immediate relief is necessary. The administration will shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in the richer, whiter neighborhoods. The property tax system is unbalanced because assessment levels are artificially capped, so homeowners in expensive neighborhoods pay less than their fair share. The mayor can fix this by pushing class assessment percentages down for everyone and adjusting rates up, effectively lowering tax payments for homeowners in neighborhoods like Jamaica and Brownsville, while raising the amount paid in the most expensive Brooklyn brownstones. Quote, how will he do this? Well, once elected, he would push assessment percentages down for everyone, which like most of what Mamdani proposes is highly unlikely, the board ribbed. The editorial board claimed that, quote, King Mamdani would then adjust rates up, based on the racial demographics of the neighborhood. Mamdani's official website states that the plan would effectively lower tax payments for homeowners in neighborhoods like Jamaica and Brownsville, while raising the amount paid in the most expensive Brooklyn brownstone. Just what I read in the document. Quote, so what percentage of paleness classifies the neighborhood as white? The Post editorial asked. A plurality? 50%? The neighborhood pointed out The newspaper pointed out the absurdity of using racial demographics as the determining factor in the city's tax code by noting that neighborhoods like Williamsburg, which brought in 57% white, would be taxed at a higher rate than somewhere like Astoria, where Mamdani lives, which is 48% white. The editorial continues to pick apart the mayoral candidate's alleged race-based tax proposal, questioning if he plans on going door-to-door to ensure that, quote, those nefarious Caucasians paid their white tax. Quote, Mamdani could have proposed property tax fixes that focus exclusively on valuation, but that's not what his campaign really does, the Post editorial asserted. It's about identity politics and a hierarchy of oppression. That very last line is exactly what I was going to say. I have no issue if you want to go and make a property tax system that is more equitable to people. I'm not a fan of paying taxes at all. But here's the deal. When it comes down to it, if you're going to live in the richest part of New York City and you have the money to afford to live there, you can afford to pay a little bit more in your property tax than someone else. Not astronomically more than anybody else, in my opinion, but marginally more. But it shouldn't come down to, oh, we're going to go and tax white neighborhoods higher than black neighborhoods, or Asian neighborhoods, or Hispanic neighborhoods. It should be, we're going to tax properties more equitably, that look at their valuation and put a fair tax rate on them. If you live in the slums in the outer boroughs, you should have to pay less taxes. You live in a crapshoot of a house. That value is not nearly worth as much as a Brooklyn brownstone is. You should pay less. Doesn't matter if you're white or black. But it's because he went so far and started bringing in the idea of racializing this that now there's outrage because of it. This is how the Democrats operate. This is how the woke operate. They operate using ideas of race to cure disparities in the market and say, no, it's not fair. It's not fair that white folks get to pay less. Of course it's not fair. If there are white homeowners that are paying less in property tax than black homeowners, that's certainly not fair. But that's completely different than taxing white neighborhoods at a higher rate than black neighborhoods. And exactly as this article said, what makes a white neighborhood? Is it 50% white, 75% white? There's no 100% white neighborhoods anymore. They don't exist now. So if you're raising property taxes on white neighborhoods, you're also raising property taxes on those black individuals who live in the white neighborhoods, and the Asian individuals that live in the white neighborhoods, and the black individuals, and the Hispanic individuals that all live there. So what are you really doing? You're saying, let's tax the rich. You're not really saying let's be more equitable and tax people based more on fairness. You're saying let's tax people based on their wealth. But instead of saying let's tax people based on their wealth, like Democrats have been saying, you say the quiet part out loud and say, let's just tax white people more. That's what this country needs. That's what the city needs. More racial division. And all I can say is, we in the red states of America, we welcome all of the millionaires and billionaires of New York. Come to us. Come move here. Leave your politics at the door. Vote for Republicans in our states. And come. Bring your businesses to Missouri. Bring your businesses to Florida. Bring your businesses to Kansas. Bring your businesses to Utah and Kentucky and Tennessee and Ohio. Bring your businesses there. Leave your politics at the door, but bring your money there. We'll gladly take you. And we won't say, let's tax the white neighborhood you live in more than the black neighborhood. We'll say, let's tax people fairly based on what they own. That's all I gotta say about that. All right, let's talk about TikTok. So from the Post-Millennial, Trump teases U.S. TikTok buyer announcement, says deal could be finalized in about 2 weeks. We'll see. I've heard this one before. What is this, the fourth or fifth deal that the White House has said is going to happen that hasn't happened or is in the works? China will never let it happen. President Donald Trump teased big news during a taped interview with Fox News Sunday Morning Features, hinting at the sale of TikTok's U.S. operations. Trump also acknowledged U.S. cyber activities targeting China in a moment that left interviewer Maria Bartiromo speechless for an instant. Maria Bartiromo speechless a lot, I've noticed. During the segment, Trump stated that a buyer has been identified for the American division of TikTok, currently owned by Chinese parent company ByteDance. Quote, "We have a buyer for TikTok, by the way," Trump said. "It's a group of very wealthy people." He said that the deal may require approval from Beijing. Of course it's going to require approval from Beijing. Quote, "I think I'll need probably China approval, and I think President Xi will probably do it," he noted, referring to Chinese leader Xi Jinping. The sale would comply with legislation passed last year mandating ByteDance divest its U.S. assets over national security concerns. Although the law permits one presidential extension, Trump said he would allow a third, granting ByteDance 90 more days past June 19th to finalize the deal. Later in the interview, Trump responded to host Bartiromo's comments about China's aggressive cyber behavior and intellectual property theft. Quote, "You don't think we do that to them, do we?" Trump said when Bartiromo asked if that was, quote, "how the world works." He replied, "It's a nasty world." So we'll see if it actually happens. I'm a fan of TikTok. I think that one of the reasons why Trump won in 2024 was because of TikTok. I think it's great for getting the message out to young people. I think that there are a whole many number of conservative personalities who have gotten famous and have a huge following now because of TikTok. Brett Cooper, one of them. She worked for the Daily Wire for quite a while. She's now a Fox News correspondent, has her own show. Amla Epinobi started out on TikTok. She went to work for PragerU for quite a while, and now she has her own show. She's very successful on her own. Several other individuals started on TikTok that have completely blown up and have huge, massive followings now. So I'm a fan of it. It's yet another alternative media that's getting support out there for the cause. And are Republicans perfect? Absolutely not. But is our country going to be better off if more people have liberal politics or conservative politics? My opinion is conservative politics. And that's just how it is. Is our country going to be better if we elect the best Democrats or the worst Republicans? I would argue almost all the time that electing the worst Republicans will be better than electing the best Democrats. Just how the party is structured right now, it is. So having more conservative voices out there is important, especially going forward. Changing the conservative party is something that young people want to be a part of is important. And the fact that those values are live on air on TikTok is important. So I'm a huge fan of TikTok and having that available in the United States. I'm not generally a fan of banning things unless it's extremely detrimental to our health or our well-being in one way or another. And I'm not convinced that TikTok is either of those. So we'll see if this deal goes through. And we'll see who the new owners are. I know there was talk about Kevin O'Leary and his group of people, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. He had gotten a syndicate together to try and purchase TikTok. He loves TikTok. Could be them. I have no idea. We'll see if China agrees. I doubt they will, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'm sitting here in 2 weeks saying that TikTok has been finally sold, and this whole saga of will they, won't they is finally over. So with that, let's go and move on to our last story of the day. This comes from Financial Post. Tech industry group sues Arkansas over new social media laws. A tech industry trade group sued Arkansas Friday over two new laws that would place limits on content on social media platforms and would allow parents of children who killed themselves to sue over content on the platforms. God forbid we have some accountability in the world. Oh my God. The lawsuit by NetChoice filed in federal court in Fayetteville, Arkansas, comes months after a federal judge struck down a state law requiring parental consent before minors can create new social media accounts. The new laws were signed by Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders earlier this year. Quote, despite the overwhelming consensus that laws like the Social Media Safety Act are unconstitutional, Arkansas elected to respond to this court's decision not by repealing the provisions that it held unconstitutional, but by instead doubling down on its overreach, NetChoice said in its lawsuit. Arkansas is among several states that have been enacting restrictions on social media, prompted by concerns about the impact on children's mental health. NetChoice, whose members include Facebook, parent Meta, and the social media platform X, challenged Arkansas's 2023 age verification law for social media. A federal judge who initially blocked the law struck it down in March. Similar laws have been blocked by judges in Florida and Georgia. A spokesperson for Attorney General Tim Griffin said his office was reviewing the latest complaint, and looked forward to defending the law. One of the new laws challenge prohibits social media platforms from using a design, algorithm, or feature it, quote, knows or should have known through the exercise of reasonable care would cause a user to kill themselves, purchase a controlled substance, develop an eating disorder, develop an addiction to the platform. The lawsuit said the provision is unconstitutionally vague and doesn't offer guidance on how to determine which content would violate these restrictions. And the suit notes it would restrict content for both adults and minors. That suit questions whether songs that mention drugs, such as Afro Man's Because I Got High, would be prohibited under the new law. The law being challenged would also allow parents whose children have died by suicide or attempted to take their lives to sue social media companies if they were exposed to content promoting or advancing self-harm, suicide. The companies could face civil penalties up to $10,000 per violation. NetChoice is also challenging another law that attempts to expand Arkansas's blocked restrictions on social media companies. That measure would require social media platforms to ensure minors don't receive notifications between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The measures would also require social media companies to ensure their platforms, quote, don't engage in practices to invoke any addiction or compulsive behavior. The suit argues that the law doesn't explain how to comply with that restriction. It's so broadly written that it's unclear what kind of post material would violate that. Quote, what is addictive to some minors, what might not be addictive to others? Does allowing teens to share photos with each other evoke addiction? The lawsuit said. Let's talk about it. Now, what's my position? My position is that social media needs to have some guardrails put on it. That it is not right that 8-year-olds are on Instagram or on TikTok. I don't think that if you are someone under the age of 16, that you really should be functioning on any social media platform. Twitter has porn on it that anyone can access. It's not restricted to accounts that put in a birthday over the age of 18, and you can fake a birthday to get on Twitter. There's no verification there that you're the age you say you are. There's porn all over Twitter, right? Why should a minor be on that platform? At least someone under 16. So I have no issue with laws that say, hey, if you're under 16, you can't have an Instagram account. You can't have a Snapchat account. You can't have a Twitter account. If you want to contact your friends, you can call. You can text them. That's it. Right? Stay off Facebook. Stay off Instagram. Stay off Twitter. Stay off all of them. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with a law saying, hey, you have to have literal age verification on your platform. If someone wants to sign up for an account, they have to put in their ID and say, hey, I am at least over 18, I can be on this platform. That's fine with me. Now, when it comes to restricting content on platforms, I get where these lawsuits are coming from. I don't know how you would argue without having some specifics what would be restricted and what wouldn't. So, I mean, obviously, I think that porn should be restricted on platforms. Frankly, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of opening up Twitter and seeing it. I think that there's a lot of things that should be restricted. I don't think that videos glorifying self-harm or people getting killed should be shared online, especially when there are kids involved in these. You can very easily go on Instagram or on Twitter or really any social media and find videos of people getting run over by a truck or getting maimed in some way or another. Just terrible, heinous videos that people post online. And this is what our kids are seeing. These are things that are coming across our kids and what is causing a rapid increase in anxiety, a rapid increase in self-harm, childhood suicide rates going up. So I don't have any issue whatsoever with a lot of these laws. Like I said, I think that they use some honing in, but just age verification in general, I'm just fine with it. So I think that this lawsuit is 50-50 there. And I kind of agree with it. You know, what is addictive to one minor might not be addictive to another minor. I kind of understand that. So we'll see what happens with it. But that is the end of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back here on Wednesday with yet another episode of this very show. We'll have so much more to talk about then. I always have such a great time sharing the news with you all, talking about the heated issues of the day, and I appreciate you subscribing to me, following along with me, giving me support. We just passed 10K on X. We're almost at 1,100 followers, or no, 10,100 followers. Excuse me. My brain was a little off there for a second. Was at 10,100 followers. Thank you so much. 10.1K. That's what I meant to say. So, yeah, keep following along. Keep sharing. Keep letting people know how great the show is. How the news that I always try and bring you news stories that aren't necessarily, you're not going to get them necessarily from Ben Shapiro or from the other big news people out there, right? You can go and watch them for that. And I think that's what this show kind of strives at. I show news that I think is interesting, I think is relevant. I mean, we could talk about Israel and Hamas every single day if we wanted to. That war doesn't stop. We could talk about Ukraine every day, like a lot of other people are doing. I don't think it's worth it to talk about those things unless there's actual relevant things to share about it. So I choose to talk about other things. And that's how we fit the show in nice little half an hour bite-sized chunks for you all. So, but with that, if you have any suggestions on what we can do to the show and make it better for you, send me a message on Twitter. Tweet at me. I'll reshare this show with friends. Subscribe to me on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, X. Follow me on all those places. I'm at HomoNAT on all of those. Follow this show at Spin Cycle Live or The Spin Cycle. You look up on all those platforms too. We should be there. I know we have an X account. We got an X account. We got a Rumble account. So go follow us there. But with that, I've been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. Peace out.